Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another Looped In with Maritza. My name is Maritza Gertie, currently the Deputy Director of Parent Voice and Community Outreach for the National Parents Union. I hope that all of you have had a good beginning of your week. Welcome to another Wednesday, and my hope is that all of you are doing well. Just a few reminders for everyone. The school district of Philadelphia has returned from spring break this week. All staff and children and faculty in all of the district school buildings are being required to mask up to make sure that everyone is as safe as possible, and also to ensure that in the event that anyone does currently have COVID and is walking around with it unbeknownst to them, that they do not then go ahead and spread it while in school. So please help your children, help your family members deal with this, and making sure that everyone does remain masked during their time in school this week. As you know, every time I begin, I like to start with some information for everyone. For those of you that are interested in being a part of the National Parents Union, it is a very easy process. All you'd have to do is go onto the National Parents Union website, and there is an individual membership form, Google form, and an organizational membership Google form that only takes a few minutes to respond to. And once that's done, you become a member. You have access to a myriad of resources, of information. You'll be the first to know when we have opportunities coming on the horizon and things of that nature. So if you're interested in becoming a member or just checking out the website, it is www.nationalparentsunion.org. If you'd like to request any kind of information from the National Parents Union, all you'd have to do is send an email to info@npunion.org. Once there, submit your response, your request, and someone will get back to you. That email is manned, so it will not be a long period of time before you get a response from anyone. As a lot of you know, National Parents Union also has a Facebook page. We also have regional pages. And because of that, I want to make sure that everyone understands. You can like us on Facebook, and to be able to be on the larger National Parents Union Facebook page, you can also like one of the regional pages, which is the Northeast region, Midwest region, Southern region, Texas region, and very soon it will have a Western region. Now, when we do all of this, just make sure that you understand that it is not the same as being a member of National Parents Union. To do that, you would have to actually go onto the National Parents Union website and fill out the Google form for yourself or your organization if needed. Let me go down this list here. Family, as we all know, every 6 months in this country, there's an election. It is very important that we all exercise our rights to vote, for those of us that are able to. One of the campaigns that has been a part of National Parents Union from the beginning is one that is very important to many of us, and it is the Every Family Votes campaign. This is a campaign in which all you would need to do if you want information is go onto the National Parents Union website, look for the Every Family Votes tab, and on there you will see a toolkit with information that can help you or your friends, your family, or if you happen to be a part of an organization, with the tools and suggestions that you would need in order to be best educated as possible with regards to the process of voting, finding out if you're eligible to vote, what the deadlines are per state in order to register to vote, what the age requirements are, everything that comes up under what do I need to find out to see if I can vote would be on that tab for Every Family Votes. Another campaign, EPIC, Everyday Parents Impacting Change. This is a very important campaign, family. Excuse me. Excuse me about it. The EPIC campaign is providing families with all of the information that you would need if you have a question about what's being done with the money that has been allocated across our country. $122 billion had been allocated from the federal government, spread around the country to all the school districts, public school districts, and every school has had an opportunity to receive some of those funds. Has your school told you what has been done or what they're going to do or what they're planning on doing? Have you, as a parent or a guardian of a school-age child, been a part of that conversation? Maybe you have questions for your school board. Maybe you have questions for a parent group. Go onto the EPIC tab on the National Parents Union website, and on there, again, you will find the resources, the tools, the questions that will help you try to get these things answered. Now, just a few more things here, but I can always do these at the end. I see that my guest is here. I'm excited that he's here. I'm going to bring him on so we can have a nice conversation. Good afternoon.
How are you, my dear?
Oh my goodness. I am so happy to see you.
I'm happy to be seen.
Oh, excuse me. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Good afternoon. I was named Harold McKinney. I grew up in Passaic, New Jersey. Graduated from the local high school, participated in a lot of high school activities. Raised in a neighborhood that years later I realized was a real African village. We had parents of every part of humanity you can imagine who took part in raising us. It's almost like the parents had a club. If you see my child doing what he's not supposed to do, you know what you're supposed to do. You know, we grew up in that, and in fact, our schools at the time were the same way, because the majority of the teachers who were employed by the Passaic school system lived in Passaic. And as a child, I didn't realize, because we moved from different neighborhoods. We lived in Third Ward in the veterans apartments, and then when the projects opened up in '53, we moved there. So there was a conglomeration, like a flower garden, full of grown-ups, all of whom took part in raising us. And you're talking about the school system and being funded. Part of the problem is, and the funders know this, ignorant parents are control parents. Parents who don't know what's going on in the system can easily be controlled and deceived.
That is absolutely correct. Parents that are not in know.
Yeah, they're not.
Information is power. And what I love about what I do, Brother Harold, is that whenever I come across, my coworkers come across, my fellow parents come across any information, we share it.
That's right.
And a lot of people in these buildings, in these superintendent offices, in these school boards, do not like the well-informed parent. They hate that.
That's right. That's right. Because what happens is,
I love the ones that know what they're talking about.
Not only that, those who are aware of the system of funding and how it trickles down from the federal to the state to local. And there's a big battle going on around the country, but primarily here in Florida, where the politicians are getting involved, as they always have been, in the core curriculum in public schools. that
Yes.
also affects funding.
Yes.
Parents got to understand, if you vote on teaching certain things to your children that's not beneficial to the funder, hey, they cut that stuff right off. I think Dade County, I live in Dade County, Florida. Dade County is either the second or third largest school system in the country. And I was a police officer in the school system. And I ended up towards the end of my stay in the department, I was assigned to schools. I got a chance to know the administration, the faculty, the staff, the custodians, and the students. As a coach, I spent a lot of time involved in those discussions down at the school board, because they like to funnel the funds, the federal and state funds, to the schools their children attend.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And they've even gotten to the point where they talk about funding private schools. Parents have to be aware of what's going on, because as I grew up in the late 40s and 50s, early 50s in Passaic, and the topic of discussion in the school was based on what happened after World War II, during in World War II. So they taught us a lot of European history, a lot of it.
Yes.
They fed us everything from the so-called ancient Greeks to the modern U.S., and they tried to make good citizens out of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember teachers, I won't call her name, but she used to say, we're going to make you more Jewish than we are. We're going to teach you. So some of the first books we learned from in the public school in Passaic was the Torah and the Bible, and then history books. But getting back to the topic, as much as you love what you're doing and the people you're working among, we've got to realize that we've got to come up with different ways of approaching parents.
Yes.
My sister, my baby sister now, she teaches in Passaic. A couple of years ago, she asked me to come. She teaches in number 11 school, elementary school children. And I sat there quiet. I couldn't be quiet for long, because the children were just, they are so, oh man, these babies are like magnets and sponges.
Yes, absolutely.
But if the right people are not feeding what they need, it's easier for them to turn off. So I sat there and listened to these children, the majority of whom were Dominican, Mexican. And back in the day, it was surprising to me, because there was one little boy who would be described as Black or African American in the class. But I noticed how the teachers and the students were drawn towards my sister, because we grew up in a family. And because our parents only were permitted to go to a certain grade level, their great emphasis was education.
Yes.
And I was the rogue in the family. I got suspended in elementary school for questioning things. I had a lot of questions, and children weren't supposed to do that back then. But make a long story short, because they had a value system that included education in our church, we grew up with certain values. So now my sister has been giving back, and she's been teaching more than 30 years.
Wow.
And what I noticed around the country with the different school systems, the closer a great teacher comes to retirement, he and she becomes a target. We got to, especially when they have a relationship with the children.
Yes.
And the parents, I've seen a lot, because I was a coach and I ran track until I was 60. I had a relationship with the athletes all over the county, and I saw a pattern taking part. If your names weren't in the paper, you didn't get any play. Your parents didn't get any play. Mm-hmm. But if you were the kind of athlete who was famous, you got attention and you got help. My question always has been, what about the rest of them?
Yes. What about the children? What about this important relationship? Because one thing I can say, Brother Harold, I heard this before. I heard someone say this, that they may not remember exactly the curriculum that a particular teacher taught us as children. but we will always remember the relationships with those teachers that reached us.
That's right.
Because I had quite a few. I mean, I had, goodness, from Mount Carmel, because I went there. Sister Veronica Paul was my first exposure to a Black nun. She was my first exposure. I had never seen a Black nun in my life, and she just mesmerized me. And she was awesome, and she was great. And then when I went to number 4 school in Passaic, Mr. Bonnet and Miss Smith, they instilled in me more of a love for reading and literature and history. So, and then, up to the high school, there was so many teachers, from Mr. Hennett to Mr. Knight to Mr. Dean to
Wait a minute.
Coach Samakowitz.
You naming teachers my sisters had.
Listen, hey, I'm probably naming teachers that your nephew Jason had. So it's but we all remember those people that touched us. Our parents are our first teachers, of course.
Did y'all get a chance to go to number 12? Was number 12 still there, or had it been destroyed?
No, because I wasn't born in Passaic. I came to Passaic when I was very, very little, like a toddler, and then we moved back from Brooklyn back in 78. So I started like second grade, but I remember everyone that was traveling from the projects walking up to the high school, because they passed us every single day when we were in line, as well as those students going to number 4 school. And that was even longer walk.
Let me give you another classic example of how certain districts, I use the word distinguish between schools, among schools. You went to Passaic High School.
Yes.
Our arch rival in my day was Patterson Eastside. Mm-hmm. Patterson Eastside and Patterson Kennedy. It used to be Central, but then it was Patterson and Clifton.
Yeah.
Out of the schools that I named just now, the school that had the most funding for athletics and education was Clifton.
Yes.
Then came Passaic.
Yes.
Then came Kennedy, and last of all, Eastside.
Yep.
But the type of pride that the students who attended Eastside had, and they still have it today, I really admired. And when I got to know them, because we went to church in Patterson, I just got hooked on the talent, especially the singing voices. Now, I don't know if you saw the movie Lean on Me.
Yes.
But there was a music teacher. There was a music teacher who rebuilt the choir. But the movie was reflecting on a woman who was there in the 60s, because she produced some serious musicians and singers. But being attached to that culture, because a lot of people say that Black people in the United States didn't have the cultural advantage that, let's say, the Cubans, the Puerto Ricans, the Brazilians had. But what they didn't realize, we came out of a situation with absolutely nothing but ourselves. And how we built the communities, because we used to live in communities, not hoods.
Yes.
We built those communities based on the reminder that we're not going to suffer like that anymore. So the school system, when I was going to school, was run by the parents. The parents had the answer to this. I mean, the school board had the answer to the parents. But slowly, because of energy and people like you coming along, it is not profitable for the district to keep listening to parents. So they have little games, especially the ones they play down here. Mm-hmm. Certain people are permitted to come to the school board meetings to disrupt it, so that the issue on the floor never gets dealt with.
Oh my! I've seen that distraction. We've all seen that kind of distraction. We've all sat in school board meetings where we know that they have an agenda.
That's right.
And people are supposed to follow protocol. If you wish to make a public comment, you have to register in advance. And there's a cutoff. So days before, they already have a list. They already know who's going to speak. You know you have 2 or 3 minutes, and that's all you're going to have. But then comes a person that, you know, they're like, they may have seen before, but just like you said, they say things to distract.
Yes.
So those parents that do have something to say or trying to ask for help, they are never heard because this other person came in and distracted and caused a commotion and took the
Well,
time away from everyone else.
I tell you, I got involved. There were a few of us, police officers, who uh, got really and seriously involved in the community and the schools we worked. And because I was assigned to the schools, and later on when I was promoted to sergeant, part of the duty of the school resource officer is to spend at least an hour every day in a social studies class and skip all of that nonsense they tell you about teaching them the law. Now, if you're gonna open their minds up to law, open their minds up to the Constitution, open their minds up to the maritime admiralty laws and common laws, and permit them to be smart enough to be able to see there's a big distinction. So after a while, I've been in the school maybe 15 years. And when that started to blossom and bud, all of a sudden I got promoted to sergeant. Get him out of there. But what these folks don't understand is once a seed is planted, the flower can get cut down, but the seeds are already planted.
Yes.
And the effects that they have on the generations to come, what we're trying to do across the world, but basically locally where we live, help the children to start. Hey, listen, at one time, my daughter, a beloved baby, she was going away to school, and we had discussions growing up. So I bought copies of the books that I have at home. The World's Greatest People of Color, the Chosen People from the Caucasus, things like that. She went off to school for 4 years. So when she graduated, I went up to Florida State, help her to drive to Atlanta. When I got there, those books were still in the plastic and still in the boxes. So when I finished and came back home, my friend, brother, I can really call a friend, he came by one day and we're talking. He said, "Man, Harold, what's wrong with you, man?" I said, "Nothing." He said, "Listen, you can't BS me. What's wrong with you?" So I told him. He said, "Harold, leave them children alone. When it's time for them to open those books and learn, they'll do it." He said, "Every human being got to carry their own burden." He said, "You can't put it on them because when time allows, they're going to wake up. Hopefully it will be before it's too late." Yes. But the public educational system is in denial. They know they had a history of overlooking and undereducating people, certain people. So when that's pointed out, and I like what's going on today, when it's pointed out, they say, "Hey man, you hurt my feelings." I don't want that. I don't want that to be taught in school because it'll generate hate. And my response is, if these children haven't learned to hate you and what you've done by now, nothing we say in classes will teach them to hate. Just tell them the truth.
That's true. That's absolutely correct. And that's what we right now, those of us, you know, we see what's going on and we want to make sure that history is not erased.
That's right.
History is not whitewashed, because we also know that if we keep on repeating the same mistakes, nothing is going to get better.
That's right.
So the best way for our children that are coming up can learn is by being told the truth, being taught the truth, all the truth, not just selected pieces.
Right. Right after high school, I played football and ran track in high school and got a little bit of notoriety. So my Uncle Charlie, he's just like another father to me. Uncle Charlie saved my life. But anyway, Uncle Charlie used to work at U.S. Rubber, and he made friends in the Polish and the Ukrainian Russian community. He even spoke those languages. So one day he took me to this bar he used to socialize in up on Dundee. Where's the Dundee Canal? Anyway, in that area. So when we went into the club, I'm fresh out of high school. He wasn't taking me in there. He just wanted me to meet some of the people he knew. So when I walked in, the owner asked him, he said, Charlie, is this the one who plays for Passaic High School? He said, yep, that's Harold. That's my nephew. So the guy said, you come with me. And he took me into a room. There was a room with a pool table. And on the walls were pictures of the original inhabitants. They used to call it the Pequannock, the Pequannock Landing. The Passaic River used to be where the Dutch used to trade with the indigenous people. So on the walls, there's a group of men sitting on horses. And these men look just like me and Uncle Charlie, but their hair was real long. So this man said to me, these are the original inhabitants of this area before we white people came here. And I said, but he said they were. He said, you people been here longer than we can ever imagine. And what happened? You fell victims to trickery and deceit. That's how you lost the land. You lost rights to the water. So after that happened, it was our duty to make you European. And in order to do that, well, that's another conversation because people get on me for talking a little bit too much. But there were several entities that were involved in creating the environment in which school systems like the one you facing can exist today. It goes a long way back. And it's all about controlling resources, which the mind is a great part of.
So tell me what you think about there are a lot of families now that are deciding, you know what? We have to build our own or teach from home.
That's right. But listen, there were so many people. I came back from Vietnam in 1971, and we were coming out of the revolutionary era of the 60s. So there were a lot of women who raised their children and taught them at home. They didn't work. Their husbands provided everything they needed. And that generation now, and it carried on in certain families. Now, the advantage to that is cultural, philosophical, spiritual, and linguistic practices can pass on from generation to generation. Whereas going to public schools, the insanity of implanting the melting pot theory into the minds of the children, most of whom will be eliminated as they grow older and reach high school. Everything in high school is only designed for certain people, especially in Passaic.
Yes.
And I keep mentioning Passaic because my people are still fighting the struggle.
Yes.
Over the same stuff we were going over back in the early 70s. That's 50 years.
I agree with what you're saying because what I say to folks, especially people that coming from other countries, regardless of whatever that is, what I say to them is fight for your right to keep your language.
That's right.
Your children's right to keep their language. I mean, I didn't start school knowing English. I was put in those English as a second language classes, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. And I guess it clicked for me because I didn't need those classes anymore. But I see too many, but because my father and my mother were very adamant, we kept our language, my first language, and I'm fortunate for that. But there are many families that come here and feel pressured by the public school system. Yeah. And they're like, oh, well, they have to learn English. I said, yes, they can learn English and still keep on speaking their native tongue. It can happen at the same time.
That's right. All they have to do is look at Miami. That's all they got to do. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to say, you can't force somebody to forget who they are.
That's right.
I don't care how much money you deprive their school system of. To deprive a person of his humanity is enslavement. Mm-hmm. And they can discredit and say, hey, man, I don't like what I don't care. truth, factual truth is factual truth. And all one has to do is study history. That's why they don't teach it anymore.
Yeah, it's so different now. It is so different now. I mean, we're fortunate. Like, I was fortunate that my parents instilled as much as they were able to in me. Therefore, my children, I mean, my eldest is 31 now. I try to instill everything in him. My second eldest is 26. You know, my daughter, she had the benefit of not only what we taught her, but she also went to an Afrocentric charter school for her elementary schooling. So whatever foundation we laid, they just further built upon that as far as her knowledge of history. So now she's in high school and she comes home sometimes and says, Mom, I didn't really agree with what they were talking about in school because I know that's not the truth. And I said, I appreciate you saying that. And I'm happy that you recognize that. But what did you do in school? She told me to question the teacher.
Let me show you something, how the miseducation helps destroy family. When I was a little boy, we used to go back to South Carolina every year because my father didn't want us to forget not just where we came from, but the struggles that were still going on. I still had first cousins living in Johnston, South Carolina, earning 25 cents, you know, working in the field. I mean, the same crap that went on when my father was a child. But what I did notice, and if you, and I'm quite sure in the Dominican Republic, it was the same way. Whenever a child was born, what did the eldest woman in the house do? She wrote that child's name and date of birth in the family Bible.
Yep.
That was the lawful way of recording. Now, mind you, I didn't say legal, but that was the lawful way of recording births. As time went on, my maternal grandmother passed in 65, I think. 64 or 65. No, I was a junior, 64. And her Bible disappeared. My maternal grandmother, her Bible disappeared. And as I look back, I was talking to one of my partners from Passaic yesterday. And when that subject came up, he became enraged. And I said, listen, it was done purposefully. You know, because see, if you go back and study or read up on when birth certificates became the legal way, not lawful, but the legal way of recording births, they came back and they took the lawful way of recording births and hid them. A lot of them Bibles are in the archives in the state, whatever state those people came from. But when I say they will use the word legal to justify wrongdoing, but it is not lawful. So now when you look at the curriculum throughout America in the school system, it is legal to eliminate certain portions of history. It is legal not to go beyond quantum physics. They don't even teach that, but to go beyond geometry. Our children are made to feel, because I hated mathematics.
Me too.
Because of the way it was presented to me. I couldn't understand and the way my sisters taught me. They taught me how to add, subtract, and multiply. And the way I wasn't arrogant, but I was sure. I used to tell my elementary school teacher, I can add that stuff up quicker than they can multiply. And she used to make me come up to the board. And most of the time I would beat them. But the thing is, there's a certain thing that is instilled in and inspired by the home that nobody else can replace. There's so much genius I've seen. I mean, the things I hear these babies say and watch how rapidly and by the time they're in third grade, it's gone.
You're right.
Because when they recognize the genius in the children, their duty is not to inspire the genius, but to turn it off, because here comes another threat to my position. Your position your position doesn't mean anything if you're not seriously here to inspire our youngsters to learn, and not just learn what you're showing them. When I finally realized that every major invention that made the United States what it is, without exception, every single one was made by one of us. Every single one.
Absolutely.
And I don't care if they spoke, and a lot of them spoke Spanish. They were sent here to be broken, but their genius came with them. They spoke Portuguese, they spoke French and Spanish, but they were forced to stop speaking that language because now if they don't remember where they came from, we can control them. But it didn't work all the time.
That's right.
So to come back to your question, I would strongly advise parents, you start that child and you keep educating that child in your home. And if you, whatever religion you profess, make sure they continue what you're teaching at home in that church you attend. Because if there's no continuity, you're going to scramble up the minds of the young, and we're going to produce worse horror than we see today.
Yeah, and what we're seeing today is a lot of people, a lot of educators, Brother Harold, are like, I'm done. They're hanging up their educator hat.
Yes.
They say they can't handle what's going on, and a lot of it comes from not that they don't care, but they don't have the bandwidth to be able to help so many troubled young people that have gone through so much, on top of the in their face racism, on top of having to be on shutdown for almost 2 years, on top of the lack of socialization as a result of the shutdown, families being torn apart, families losing family members. So my thing is, we have to try our best not only to get our children healed, we also have to heal the adults that are teaching our children when they're not in our homes.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you 158,000%, because it's very difficult. I always reflect back on this. When I started at number 8 school, I had a teacher named Miss Goslow. And Miss Goslow survived what happened in Poland during World War II. Several of our teachers survived Europe. Miss Goslow, bless her soul, used to tell me and my cousin Barbara Jean and Willa Mae, because these children growing up in homes, they had in South Carolina, but the children who parents came out of Passaic, they used to make fun of us because the way we spoke and how we dressed. But every adult had a handle on his name. Is Miss or Mrs. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir, period.
That's right.
After a while, Miss Goslow kept telling us, hey, you ain't in South Carolina no more. You don't have to speak like that. You don't have to, ma'am, and sir. This is going on for months. So finally, one Saturday, because my father worked midnights at U.S. Rubber, we sitting at me and my brother, Reverend McKinney, we had to stand up to eat. And the phone rang. So I reached for it, and it was my grandmother. She said, is this Harold? Yes. Is your father home? Yes. Is he eating breakfast? Yes. Okay, tell him to call me when he finished eating. Yes. And I hung the phone up. When I turned around, my father was already facing me. He had turned away from the table. Who was that on that phone? I said, Grandma. Ma never came out my mouth to this day. My father was in my mouth like a dentist. And my mother had to stop, and because Daddy, this boy got the audacity and disrespect to talk to my mother like that. Where you get that from? So I told him. He couldn't wait until Monday morning to take me back to school. It was my father, my Uncle Charlie, and my grandfather. I'll never forget it.
Oh my God.
Miss Glancy was the principal. We sitting in her office. My father explained, I want to speak to that teacher.
That's right.
Miss Goslow wasn't about this big. She was about maybe 4'2" or something like that. When she walked in the office and saw the three McKinney sitting there, I could see she started shaking. But my father was never impolite or disrespectful, but he did tell her and the principal, this school and the church we attend are only extensions of what I teach my children at home. Don't you ever tell my child not to address an adult by sir or ma'am.
That's right.
I still do it to this day. But that happens when people are outside of your cultural experience and want to impose theirs on you.
That's right.
And you know, growing up in Passaic was I tell everybody, the people I'm still in touch with today, said we are special. We grew up in a time and in a place among a people who generated pure love and respect for one another. And all you had to do at that time was walk around, not just Passaic. You go to Garfield, Patterson, Clifton, and if somebody knew who your parents were,
that's it.
And you were acting other than what you. I ain't waiting till you get home. I'm gonna tell you how it parts up. No. And then when they finished, Miss Ernestine Robinson, I'll never forget, beloved mother in the projects, heard me cursing.
Ooh.
We were playing kickball down by Building 11. And I had a powerful leg. I kicked the ball all the way down by Building 33. And I'm running around the bases. And I know it. Y'all see me kick that MFing ball way the fuck out there. And when I get to home plate, I'm leaning up against the fence. And I heard this voice, young man. And all of us turned around. And she said, you, come here. Yes, ma'am. Ain't you one of them McKinneys? Yes, ma'am. And she pulled this keychain out. She went to whooping with that keychain, right? So nobody laughed. It was so quiet in the playground. So when she finished, she said, and now I'm going to go down there and tell Lily, man, I'm going to tell your mama. I said, oh, Miss Robinson, please, just give me another whooping, but don't tell my mother.
It's so crazy because in this day and age, I could walk past a group of young people and it depends on their age in this day and age, whether or not I would say something if I heard young people cursing. If they were elementary school, I would definitely say, excuse me, watch your mouth. But the older young people, we have to be careful. One, because a lot of them don't know how to handle an adult being corrected and telling them. And instead of just listening or maybe just ignoring, they'll want to physically attack the person.
Yeah.
And that kind of, you know, and it's a shame, but it's prevalent in a lot of areas where there's not a lot of, you know, in the more urban areas, in the more rural areas.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. And that's the thing. A lot of people, they're afraid of it. They're afraid of putting a young person in their place. It all depends on the situation. Like, you know, if you're the person that knows all the children in the neighborhood, everybody knows who you are. But if you're just a random person and say, excuse me, I don't like that, it comes with a little bit of risk, but I think it's a needed risk in this day and age. Yeah. Children do need to be corrected.
Yes. And we used to have meetings, and this was inspired by what I remember from growing up in the projects. The men in the projects, most of whom worked either at Panaso, Okanite, or US Rubber, they were all employed by some company. The women, the wives and mothers were what we later on called domestics. They cleaned 2 or 3 houses, ironed people's clothes, iron. They did it. My mother used to bring clothes home. That's how I learned how to iron so well. But they had to work. But on top of what they did to help husbands and fathers, they raised the children. See, a lot of us had so much deep respect for the women in the projects. You know, of course, not only would they correct you verbally, but some of them would light your behind up. And then after being lit up, I'm sure gonna tell your daddy. But the point I'm getting at is that when we have communities, we have children who learn responsibilities at home. When the children have a responsibility, or let me turn it the other way. When there's no responsibility, there's no discipline. And when there's no discipline, there's no control, self-control.
Yes.
Everybody who I remember still living, who grew up, not just in the projects, but in Passaic. Of course, the very first Spanish-speaking people I remember was Sifredo and Luis Silva. They were from Puerto Rico. And I said, wait a minute, man. And of course, there was a lot of friction between the unmelanated Puerto Ricans who came, because they used to tell us we're all Puerto Ricans, but I saw the way they treated Louis and Sifredo. I said, man, that shit, excuse me, that exists over there too. So these two guys were very, very athletic and they were very respectful. Reason I brought them up, they had a tradition that went on from home that extended into the school, because they grew up in an area in Puerto Rico. I learned later there was Loíza Aldea, which is something like San Pedro in the Dominican Republic. And they brought that with them to Passaic. So they set a particular standard, but they had it hard because they spoke Spanish. And they got these guys were brilliant, by the way. But what happened, either they put you in opportunity class or they put you a year behind.
Yeah.
So now you got a 16-year-old hanging out in the 8th grade now, 15, 16-year-old in the 8th grade. Now, what kind of inspiration is that? Here I am sitting with youngsters 2 years younger than me. Hey man, I ain't doing this. So they gone.
Yeah.
They left.
Yes.
And that's all part of the process. Couple of times, and I try not to bring up personal experiences. However, it's kind of difficult when you're in Philadelphia, right?
Yes.
Philadelphia is a lot like Passaic, but much bigger.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
My sister, the one who teaches at number 11, she lived in Philly after she graduated from Rutgers for about 10 years. So it became easier for her when she came back home to Passaic and started teaching. She said, Harold, it's a breeze. This is a breeze. I don't have to put
schools, yeah.
Yeah. She said,
probably.
And I talked to her the other day. She said, I miss Philly. She said, of course, she said, at least they understood the language I was speaking.
But it's changing now. It's very prevalent in the Northeast, New York, right. New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, but it's coming down. So the demographics in Philadelphia are also changing. And the district here needs to now in my opinion, do more. It's okay for them to say, oh, well, we'll offer translation if you request it. I don't need you to translate. I need you to also hire people that speak the language, that are fully bilingual.
Not just
what they deserve.
Not just speak the language, but know the culture.
Yes.
See, that's the biggest mistake these people make.
Culturally competent, absolutely.
Here's why the Cuban community here in South Florida has been successful. Because they have an economic base, they can dictate to the school board about the curriculum. They can dictate to the mayor's office about patrolling, policing their communities, because they got an economic base. Why? Because they saw a need. And they learned the old pool party we used to do in Passaic. When relatives come over, you stay here till you get on your feet. And they don't forget who helped them. So they bring that together, not just the money or the economics, but the social voice.
Yes. The
When you
connection,
have
the
the,
networks.
yeah,
Yes.
when you have the kind of power to say, oh, okay, this is your last term in office because you served the wrong needs. And when it's time to elect, you should see these guys out here scrambling. Listen, no, we gave you a chance. Bye. So now I cannot say that's what we need to do because we did it and we continue to do it. But the entire society and the entire political and economic systems are designed to keep us from even recognizing that we have a particular power. During Reconstruction, we controlled Congress. And the Southern losers said, nah, man, we can't ever have this again. So that's why the whole thing about poll taxing and everything came up. When they saw that we had a political voice and everything that was being done to uplift those people who just came out of enslavement. So they came together and said, that'll never happen again. Never. That's like they said, now, I won't get into that. I'll leave it alone. But what we have to understand is our own interests should be paramount. And for those who speak Spanish, I love it because when I visit your country, they treat you the same way that they treat me here. Now, you come here and you join them, what's wrong with you? Mm-hmm. Because they're still going to call you what they call me behind your back, and they're still going to serve their own personal interests. And if you ever stand up when you recognize that you've been mistreated, they're going to isolate you. So why not recognize that we're all in this struggle together? Why not recognize that we have what is called spiritual strength? But we've got to put aside these little Mickey Rooney differences. Because when you stop and look at it, the only difference is in here.
That's right.
And that's why I went to Cuba after I came back from the Dominican Republic. And I'm listening to, in the Dominican Republic, I'm listening to them down and them damn Cubans. I ain't standing around it. But then when I get to Cuba, them damn Dominicans, I said, wait, hold on. ¿De qué tú hablas? Es la gente mismo, igual. No. See, just bring your behind to the United States, you'll find out.
Oh, yeah.
Just come on over, you'll find out quickly.
It's a struggle to be unique, specific. You know, we're all lumped together. So if we're all lumped in together, we got to work together.
That's it.
We got to move forward and move beyond, and not think about me, but think about we and us.
Yeah, because no matter where you go, and again, I love to travel, and I've been almost every continent on this planet, and no matter where I've gone, the conditions for us is the same. Absolutely. No matter where. The conditions are the same. And again, one of the reasons they changed the curriculum to stop teaching European history, because the child will begin to recognize, no matter if they're from Russia, if they're from Germany, if they're from France, they all family. The ruling class, they all related. They're all first cousins. Some of them are brother and sister.
Yes.
There are groups of families running this stuff.
Yes.
So if in the motherland, in the fatherland, in England, for example, if there are laws that are still on the books, whereas a person who is highly melanated can't get into a certain area, what you think is going to be like in the colony?
Brother Harold.
Yes, ma'am. Until next time.
But this is the thing. I waited so long to be able to have you, be a blessing to anyone that's listening and watching, and people are listening and watching. But an hour is not enough. So I'm going to have to bring you back in the future. I will bring you back, because the things we talk about, like, I didn't even have to prompt anything or put certain words up. Talking to you is so easy, and I love it. And I love the fact that you talking from a point of lived experience, even though you say you don't like really talking about personal experiences. You took us back to when you were a young man, a student in grade school, a student in high school, a person that served in Vietnam, a person that worked in law enforcement, has been around young athletes for many, many, many years. And now, I mean, and you're still young, as far as I'm concerned. You're still young. You're just a treasure trove of knowledge and history. And that is why I said I have to bring you on here, because, there are a lot of folks, a lot of people, they're still doing the same things because they're not sitting back and having a conversation with our living ancestors. And you were definitely one of them. Definitely one of them. I love sitting down with my mom. My mom is 72, and sitting down and talking to her about certain things that she remembers when she was a child, or certain experiences that she may have had. We talk about it, and it's so that we never forget. We should never forget any of our history, whether it's good, whether it's bad, because it is needed for us to be able to continue the history with our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. They have what we went through.
I never met my great-grandfather, but I knew him.
Wow.
And I knew him because of my father and my grandfather describing him to the T. And we heard these things every day about our family members. I came back from Africa, I think it was right before Regina died in 75. And I gave the information that I had gathered to one of my cousins. And he took it to the limit, went to Europe and everything. And he came up with a family tree that goes all the way back to 1749, when the one they called Jack was brought here from Gambia. And he broke down the lineage all the way up to today. And some of those people, even though I've never met them, I heard enough every day of my life from not only my father, my grandfather, but my mom, my uncles, my aunts, my cousins. And the things that keep a young person motivated is knowing who he or she is. The connections there, but the problem is there's a lack of continuity. We've got to be structured in raising. I look at my grandchildren and I pull my son to the side. Now, can you imagine? Oh, let me see, they're 4 and 2. And I've been through that age with my sons and daughters. So there are certain things, if a young person doesn't understand how to express, and when I'm talking about young person, I'm talking about the parents. If they don't have the skills from watching as they were growing up, they would do anything to keep that baby busy. I go over there, I see my little granddaughter with a cell phone. Now, I mean, she do it. Son, come here, let me talk to you for a minute. And I heard my daughter-in-law, I don't know what to do. I said, now, what do you mean you don't know what to do with her? She's 2 years old. There is a period, there's a stage of inquisitiveness and discovery. See, it should be easier for you because you breastfed them children. You didn't feed them formula. So part of you is still in them. Now, all it takes is a little bit of time.
That's it.
Pick them up, hold them. So what I did, I started telling them babies about my parents, my grandparents, all my brothers and sisters, and they sit and they listen. So now when I go over there, my son said to me the other day, "Hey, Daddy, we need you to watch the babies till we." I said, "Go ahead, man." He said, "You're the only one they listen to." I said, "No, they relate to me. They know that certain thing, Papa ain't gonna, you ain't gonna tolerate it."
Oh my goodness!
There's a way you look at them, and there's a way you express yourself to them. They know when it's time.
Mm-hmm.
I never forget the looks the older women used to give us sitting up in church. We clowning like and so what was that? Sister Mosley, she would turn around and
that look.
yeah. So and it's not instilling fear in the child. It's teaching the child how to respect the understanding coming from an adult when they're trying to correct their behavior.
Absolutely.
And these people told us, because I majored in early childhood at William Patterson, and I used to remember the conversations we'd have in early childhood development. I used to love that class, and I would listen to the future educators and the zeal they had, and I would never touch my child. Yeah, you're a damn fool. So not your child raising you. You see, here's the difference. My father knew his bloodline. He knew it. And he knew my mother's bloodline. Mama knew her bloodline. So they realized that based on their experiencing from their parents, their whole thing, they knew there's certain things they wasn't going to let their children get away with.
That's right.
In fact, we didn't get away with anything. I got suspended in number 8 school in the 2nd grade. So
Pulaski School, number 8?
That's right.
I went there for 1 year.
Oh, man.
I remember.
But the point is, when a child knows that there's a spiritual connection between mama and daddy and me, there's certain things I know I better not try. But today, because they did not spend the necessary elements and time with those children, because soon as the baby's old enough to, what they say, they put them in school. As soon as they potty train, they can put them in school. Now that's crazy. Now you got somebody else teaching your child what you're supposed to teach them. And if they can, because babies are smart. They ain't nothing but little people. They know what buttons to push, and they push them just to see how far they can go.
Oh my goodness. Oh, it's 5:02. No, I wish I had more time. I'm going to bring you back.
I'll be happy to come.
I'm going to bring you back, and you never know. It may be one of my next trips. I'll be like, Brother Harold, I'm coming down to Miami. We're going to set up the camera, and we're going to do it right next to each other and just talk.
Okay.
I think that would be awesome too. I mean, because talking to you, people need to hear more, and I'm so appreciative of when you agree to talk to people in these kinds of formats, because you reach so many with your experiences and your words. And I want to thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Oh my gosh. It's up to you if you want to hang out in the green room. If not, we will talk soon. I just have some parting announcements for folks with some information, but thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
Continue to stay blessed and stay safe.
I appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you. Family, oh my goodness. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. I truly do. I am going to very quickly go through some announcements that I didn't get a chance to, but I want to make sure you have it. For those of you that may not know, next week is National Week of Conversation. And there will be a panel discussion had on Tuesday, April 26th, on the National Parents Union page. Where does parenting education belong? I'll be very happy to see as many people as possible go on to the National Parents Union page on Tuesday at 8:00 and listen to this very interesting conversation. Excuse me. Again, for anyone in the city of Philadelphia that is interested in a free COVID test, every Thursday for the month of April from 9 to 1 at El Concilio, 141 East Hunting Park Avenue, front in Hunting Park. Free, no insurance required. You must be able to swab your own nose, and you're getting tested if you're symptomatic or exposed to COVID. April, free 2-day health clinic, dental, medical, vision, April 23rd and 24th. Begins at 6 a.m. at the Pennsylvania Convention Center. That's at 11th and Arch in the city of Philadelphia. So if you're in need of health care, there's going to be a free clinic at the Convention Center, April 23rd and April 24th. The Crown Act. It is something that we are very strongly endorsing. Creating a respectful and open world for natural hair. It is your opportunity to send a letter to your U.S. Senator. Go on to the National Parents Union website and look for the Crown Act. On there, you'll be able to put in your information and send a letter directly to your state senator, advising them to make sure that the Crown Act is made a federal act. I want to thank everyone that has tuned in. My voice is about to go here, so I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next week, stay safe out there. Thank you.